From Westfield, Indiana, just north of Indianapolis, on a great, rather cool day today. Regional round activity, the Little League World Series for 2017. We're in the mighty Grand Park of Westfield today. One of the most beautiful facilities across the country, and relatively new for our opening game between the state champions in the Midwest region. We have 6 teams that will participate, and we'll have 4 of them playing today. 2 actually have byes. The 6 competing teams: Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Coon Rapids, Minnesota, Kearney, Nebraska, Johnston, Iowa. Our 2 opponents today: Cherokee, Kansas, and the 6th out of Indiana. It's Kearney, Nebraska, and Johnston, Iowa in the opening act today. And both of these quite familiar with each other. Greetings, Jim Barber, John Gregory, who's our baseball expert and analyst today, and for that matter, the entire tournament. Well, new kids, and in a lot of ways new coaches, but not new programs. So this experience may matter some for both teams, I would think.
Well, it matters to the coaches because they were able to talk to last year's coaches that were here at this particular tournament. But for the players, all new on both sides. So they have to be very calm at the beginning of this ball game. Just know how they got here, have a lot of fun. We talked to them a little bit beforehand. It seems like all these teams are loose and ready to go.
They seem too relaxed for me, actually, John. Let's take a look at the division at a glance. And I would imagine the fact that these 2 teams have a lot of experience, at least in terms of the programs, I think would give them a chance to get here. Now, this is double elimination, but it's modified. And in fact, you can't be 13 years old before May 1st, 2017. Eventually, there'll be no 13-year-olds in this tournament.
Yeah, they're going to make a change here and just 12-year-olds, and that'll be nice. I mean, there's a big difference between a 13-year-old or old 13-year-old and a young 11. So it's going to be a change, but I think it's good for the game.
They are 6-inning games. Of course, we could have extra innings. We could have a lot of things happen today, including weather. We'll have the starting lineups and first pitch from Westfield, Indiana, in a moment. Number 10, Braden Anderson, is the starting pitcher today for Kearney, Nebraska. He's the son of Brent Anderson, will be one of the base coaches. He's 12 years of age, 5'7", 130 pounds, and he's a big admirer of Mike Trout.
Yeah, well, it's a good guy to admire. And Anderson out on the mound's a fastball, curveball type kid out there. He's got a good changeup, too. All about him is location. If he can locate the ball early, they'll have some success. And we'll talk about that quite a bit, Jim, as we often do every year at the start of this tournament. The pitchers that can get the ball across the plate and force their defense to play behind them are typically the teams that move on in this tournament.
That's Mengesha Hennis, who will lead off to start this game. He's a terrific story. He'll be followed by Spencer Timmerman. Pierce Anderson will bat third. Gage Mullendor will hit cleanup. Cale Moss is in the 5 spot. The center fielder Carter Bryan will hit 6. He's a good defensive center fielder. Sam Hesselman, the left fielder, is 7th. Rex Woodley at first will bat 8th, and the pitcher is Carter Willems, will hit 9th. 4 games today, marathon baseball the next 3 days. Good to have you with us as first pitch under cloudy skies about to commence. And hit in the back is Hennis, and he will march on to first base. And hardly the way that pitcher Anderson had hoped to start this game, John.
Well, we talked about control, and that's one of the things his dad says and they admire about him is he's got pretty good control out there. Not a good start for him out on the mound, and you see down at first base, Mengesha, he's not a big guy. Took that one, seemed like right in the side, right in the hip and ribs area in the back, so it looks like he's okay.
Yeah, and nice sign of sportsmanship. Not only did the first baseman, Paul, come over to shake his hand, but so did the pitcher, Anderson. We anticipate we'll see a lot of that here as Spencer Timmerman steps in. He's the right fielder batting in the 2nd spot for Johnston, Iowa, and he takes the pitch down low, a ball. Timmerman's favorite book is the menu at Buffalo Wild Wings. You and I will get along with him very well.
Oh, yeah.
So far, Anderson has missed on 3 consecutive pitches, hitting a batter to start the game, and behind on the count 2-0. The home plate umpire is Jake Ballard. Ryan Hollowell at first, Nick Boylan second, Andrew Kelly the umpire at third. Taking all the way and taking a ball is Timmerman. The count now 3-0. Infield in a bit at all positions, although they can turn a double play rather easily if needed. And on the 3-0 pitch, the first called strike by pitcher Braden Anderson.
Anderson may settle down a little bit now. You want to get that first strike across the plate. It's like football. You get that first contact. Everything's okay after that.
With Hennis on base, nobody out. We await the 3-1 pitch, like your first completion when you were quarterbacking at Marshall, right? You get that first pass completion, and then the nerves settle in.
That's right. Bit. Give me an easy one.
3-1 pitch inside, and there are runners at first and second for the defending champions from Iowa who made it all the way to Williamsport last year. Here's Pierce Anderson, the third baseman. Got good power. Bench coach Dave Anderson is his dad. That one to the backstop. Both runners moving up on a wild pitch. Second and third now. And nobody out. So if you're Braden Anderson, how do you settle down here since you're the team's #1 pitcher?
Yeah, you settle down by getting a visit to the mound by your head coach. Going to come out and talk to him. And again, sometimes the moment gets a little bit big for these kids as they start this Little League regional, knowing one step away from the Little League World Series. You can imagine they're a little amped up. Some guys will try to overthrow a bit. So if I'm out there talking to them, just trying to calm them down, you know, don't let the moment be too big for you, and don't try to overthrow and do too much.
Oh, that's good advice.
I've heard that before. Somebody walked out and told me that.
I hope you heeded it.
The only thing is I couldn't overpower anybody.
No,
so
that's okay.
Just
we
relax.
We appreciate your honesty, as always. Mangesha Hennis is at third. Spencer Timmerman, the runner, at second. There is nobody out in the inning. And Anderson faces Anderson here. Braden versus Pierce. And he gets hit by a pitch. And now the bases are loaded. The runner from second, which was Timmerman, was just strolling over to third, almost feeling like there might have been a bases loaded walk. And in fact, Hennis said, hey, get back, son. So now the bases are loaded with nobody out for the cleanup hitter, Gage Mollendor. Mollendor is the big hitter on this team. They can put him in multiple spots. And he's got a great RBI opportunity here as he takes a called strike. Outfield shallow, left, center, and right. Even though this kid does have good punch. His favorite team, the defending world champion Cubs. And your Dodgers, since you grew up in the Dodgers minor league organization, are just running away with things right now.
They've been on a roll, and nobody can stop them right now.
I don't think they need that Kershaw guy very much, do they?
Well, I'd take him anytime he's ready to get back in the lineup.
Yep. 2-strike count with the bases loaded, nobody out. Scoreless game. Iowa threatening big time. Towards short. That's a double play ball to second. Over to first. Not in time. Hennis scores, and it's 1-0 Iowa. So the ball wasn't hit particularly hard, as shortstop Bober was hoping to turn a double play. He's able to get one, and a runner able to score.
Yeah, infield playing halfway that time on the inside. Tried to get the double play, weren't able to do it. So run scores for Iowa early in this ball game.
Brings up the coach's son, Cale Moss, the catcher. Considered to be very, very competitive. In fact, Dad has to dial him down occasionally. Truth be known, we asked Dad about that. He says, well, he gets some competitiveness from me.
Yeah.
I'm like that too.
Yeah, also being the third of four brothers out there, that'll cause you to be a little bit competitive too at the dinner table and out in the yard.
Yep. Got a good stance up there as he waves the bat on a 1-1 pitch, and it's now 1-2. Get the sense that maybe Braden Anderson, the pitcher for Kearney, is starting to feel a little more comfortable out there.
Yeah, you get that first strike, and then you get that first out, and he just needs to get out of this inning. You can tell he's got great philosophy on the mound. You just throw strikes, you can get your defense playing behind you.
Tries to nip the corner there, and the count goes to 2-2. Carter Bryant, the center fielder, will bat next. Johnston and Kearney back again in Indianapolis, but with completely different players, coaches, and managers. Now 2 outs in the inning. Good change of pace pitch on 2-2.
Yeah, that was the breaking ball we talked about. His dad says he has a good breaking ball, and if he can locate that, especially away from the right-handed hitter, watch where his catcher sets up here and gets the breaking ball outside, and that's a good-looking deuce right there.
Here's an opportunity for Carter Bryan as he takes a pitch up high. The book on Bryan is that he can have a quiet game and still go 3 for 4, knocking 3 runs. So the coaches call that sneaky.
Yeah, sneaky stat guy.
And a guy you want in the 6th spot. He waves at a high fastball. And the count is even at 1-1. There are runners at 1st and 3rd. 2 outs, top of the 1st. Iowa 1, Nebraska nothing.
Well, as soon as you say this, something bad typically happens, but boy, it looks a lot different right now for Anderson out on the mound this last couple of hitters than he did at the first few. But that's just about settling down and getting comfortable out there.
Out in front of the plate. The throw to first, not in time. They did a good job. Did catcher Smith of freezing the runner at 3rd base, but now they're loaded with 2 outs. And on that play, Timmerman had a notion to try to score, but as it turned out, the ball was directly in front of home plate, no chance.
No, Smith did the right thing there. He reached down without the glove, tried to pick it up barehanded. May have just looked up to the first base bag to see where the runner was, and when he did that, not able to come up with it cleanly. But fortunately, Timmerman stayed at 3rd base on the 3rd base bag and didn't score.
Good opportunity now for Sam Hesselman. The 1-strike pitch, 1-1. Well, let's put your official scoring abilities to work. Was that a hit or an error?
I don't know how they scored it there. Typically, I think it would be an error because if he comes up with it cleanly, I think he gets the play down at 1st base.
You are correct, sir. The count now goes to 1-2 as Hesselman becomes the 7th man to bat in the inning. Good opportunity for the left fielder, number 34, as he faces Braden Anderson, trying to get out of a huge jam in which he's hit a couple of players already. 23rd pitch of the 1st inning. And Gesha Hennis has already scored. Timmerman at 3rd. That's Spencer. Gage Mollendor at 2nd. Carter Bryan is the base runner at 1st. Now the 2-2 pitch. A little drama here in the 1st inning, huh? We go as far as we can.
Nice job by Nolan Smith, the catcher that time, getting outside to block that breaking ball. Again, that got away from Anderson, holding on to that curveball a little too long, but nice job by Nolan Smith behind the plate to block it.
And a big pitch here. Strike 3 call. Huge strikeout by Braden Anderson. Got himself in a jam. Then worked his way out. The Nebraska batting order when we come back. A pound shy of 100. 5'5", Home Alone. Long-standing great movie is his favorite, and he will face Nebraska getting its first opportunity to bat, and Reese Bober, who is set to step in. He is the shortstop and considered to be the fastest player on this team for Kearney, Nebraska, which finds itself in a 1-0 hole. After Bober, it's the pitcher Braden Anderson the bat. Nolan Smith hits the 3-hole. Brooks Paul bats 4th. Easton Etherington will bat 5th. Then Scott Simmons, Bo Knapp, Ty Redinger, and Luke Wagner. It was kind of an unusual 1st inning in which 2 batters were hit. An error, no hits. Iowa got 1, could have scored a whole lot more.
Yeah, they were fortunate to be able to get out of that inning, Nebraska was, and we'll see what Carter Willems has on the mound for this Iowa team. He's a fastball, curveball, changeup guy. He's got the best mix on the team. He's long and lanky out there on the mound, so we'll see how his nerves are to start this ball game too. We saw little nerves on Nebraska's side. Let's see if Iowa can come out, settle down, and let Willems throw some strikes.
And John, they're having breakfast in Nebraska and Iowa for this game today. Starting time was 9 o'clock in the morning. First pitch inside a ball. So we welcome those folks wherever they're joining us today. And of course, a nice sized crowd, and it's made its way to the stadium here at Grant Park. Count now 2-0 as Willems grabs the ball and is ready to go to work again. I like guys that like to work fast. How about you?
Oh, yeah.
Towards short. Hennis to first. Not in time. That'll be a base hit for Reese Bober as he beats it out on the ground ball to Mengesha Hennis.
You said Bober's fast going down that first base line. This thing was hit not real hard, but Hennis was playing in, and what a strong throw over to first base, and just beats it down to the first base bag. Really close play.
So we're going to have the first of many conversations here. And whatever it is, first base coach Brett Anderson is pleased with it. Sean Etherington, the manager, is the third base coach. John Paul's the bench coach. There'll be a lot of substitutions, but not nearly as many as in past, because in an effort to speed up the game, you're allowed just a couple of pinch running substitutions as opposed to one per inning, which was the case in 2016.
Yeah, a few changes to, just like the major leagues, to speed up the games a bit. You should take a look at Hennis there, the shortstop that made the nice throw over to first base bag. Another change that some people like, some don't, is the intentional walk. You're now allowed to put a guy down there, but it's going to cost you 4 pitches.
This play is being challenged, by the way, and we do have replay available. So you be the judge on the throw the first. So I think he beat it.
Well, I think that's a bang play down there, but first base umpire Brian Hollowell looked like he got that one right.
So manager Troy Moss will immediately go to replay to see if this will be overturned. And you get another look at the speedy runner Bober. What do you think?
Boy, that is a bang play. Looked like at first he got his foot in there. It's tough to tell. And if it's not convincing, I don't know if they overturn it here. I think they probably stay with it.
The home plate umpire is Jake Ballard. And with substitutions and replay, he'll be quite busy here in this first game. Yeah, the play will stand. John, you and I are both 1 for 1 now.
Yes.
I'm
gonna mark that down right here. This is the tab for that right here.
Yeah. When it starts to get in the wrong column, we'll stop mentioning it. Here comes Braden Anderson, who did a terrific job after getting himself in trouble of getting out at the top of the first, and he waves at a fastball. Throw down the first, and that's going to go into foul territory. And Bober skirts into second base. So Moss on the throw down the first skipped it. That'll be an error on him, and that puts the runner at second now with nobody out.
Well, Kale Moss has got a strong arm. His dad told us that, but tried to throw that one behind the runner at first base. Woodley, the first baseman, wasn't necessarily on the bag, and that ball hit the bag. Fortunately, it didn't go down the right field line and bounced over there toward behind first base, and Bober was only able to get to second.
Brian Hollowell, the first base umpire, gets a little airtime there as he fixes up first base. And so now the runner at second for Anderson with nobody out. That one gets away from the catcher, and on the third base goes Bober. So Reese Bober, who barely beat out a hit to short, now has gone from first to third base with nobody out.
Boy, speed will beat you in the big league. Speed will also beat you here in Little League, too.
Yep, it sure does.
Bober's pretty impressive. Not that he needed a lot of wheels to get to second and third, but just the threat and the ability caused Moss to throw behind him.
Good change of pace on 2 strikes, and Anderson is out for the first out of the inning.
Mentioned fastball, curveball here. Willems throws the breaking ball for the strike there, and a nice put out.
Brings up the animal, Nolan Smith, who takes a called strike. He asked his manager, Sean Etherington, what's he like? And he says, well, behind home plate, he's a wall. Down a strike with a runner at third, and he takes a ball. I almost figured that somebody nicknamed the animal would like Metallica, don't you think? I mean, doesn't that kind of go hand in hand?
I think so. And you're not going to argue with this kid. He's got some pretty good size.
No, sir. On the 1-1, another breaking ball misses. Moss is such a competitor. Behind home plate, he held the ball for a while, hoping that the home plate umpire, Ballard, would have a good look at it. 2-1, though, is the count. This towards second base, past the second baseman. That'll tie the game as Mullendor trying to get a hand on it. It was hit hard at Gage. It will tie the game at 1-1. Definitely an RBI and likely an error on the second baseman.
Well, you said it. This ball hit pretty hard. He takes one step to his right, tries to backhand it. Mullendor not able to come up with it, and the run scores. Bober hustling down that first base line to lead off this inning with a hit. Is able to come around and score.
Out in front of home plate, and it will go foul as Brooks Paul, the first baseman, hitting the cleanup spot, batting now for Kearney, which has tied the game at 1-1. We've had a weird first inning. We've had 2 hit batsmen and 3 errors between the two teams. Maybe indicative of things being a little bit unnerving for a while. And that's understandable.
Sure.
You touched upon at the beginning that everybody was relaxed, but now when you get out there and start playing, it's a little different feel.
You know, year after year, we see the same thing here. It's pitching and defense typically that wins these first games, and the teams that come out here early and throw strikes and play good defense typically get off to the best starts.
There was a game recently in one of the regionals on ESPN3 in which Oklahoma scored 3 times in an inning, didn't have a hit. And I don't think these games are scored like the major leagues. I think there's probably a little bit more leeway because these are little leaguers as opposed to big leaguers, and yet early in games you will see typically a lot of errors. Toward third base is going to be a tough play to first, but on the throw by third baseman Anderson to Woodley, he's able to get the runner. In the meantime, Nolan Smith scoots down to second base with 2 outs. That'll bring up Easton Etherington, the coach's son, batting fifth, and another look. And not a very hard hit ball, and well played in this particular case by the third baseman, and there are now 2 outs. Easton Etherington batting in the 5th spot. His dad is the skipper on this team. His favorite subject is Spanish, and he is one of the few 13-year-old players in appearance. Trying to go the other way. It may drop. It will. Running around third. He'll head home, and it's 2-1 in favor of Kearney, Nebraska. Nolan Smith scoring on the bloop single to right field by Easton Etherington.
Etherington doing just enough there to get the bat on the ball. Lazy fly ball to right field, no man's land, and as it falls in here, and Nolan Smith, the animal, comes around and scores from second base.
Scout Simmons, good RBI man, batting in the 6th spot. Now hits for Nebraska, which has a 2-1 lead. This gets away from the pitcher Willems, but no possibility for Etherington to advance. Simmons a big fan of Kyrie Irving. The big question is, where will Irving be playing next year? Some people think he'll start with Cleveland and move on, but apparently damage now has been assessed between him and that guy named LeBron.
Yeah, tough to turn that around.
Nope. On the 2-1, got behind on that pitch. We're on the 2-0 pitch, and now it is 2-1 with 2 outs in the bottom of the 1st. And our score is 2-1. Willems from the stretch. These two teams very familiar with the opponent in this opening round because of the great experience, the fact that they've had champions here before, but can't really get a book on either team because the players are completely different. 2-2 called strike. Inning over. Nebraska sends 6 to the plate and scores twice, and after one, it's Nebraska 2 and Iowa 1. As Rex Woodley gets set to step in for Johnston, Iowa. Here's a profile in this fine town. Approximate population 17,300. Located 10 miles north of Des Moines. Home to DuPont Pioneer, U.S. leader in hybrid seed production. And like Kearney, Nebraska, no stranger to Indianapolis. We were teasing the folks from Nebraska today, some of the fans saying, don't you have like a permanent hotel here that you have established every year since we see you and Johnston, Iowa a lot. Woodley in the 8th spot is the first baseman. The pitcher, Carter Willems, will bat next, and then Megasha Hennis back to the top of the order.
Johnston Little League last year beat Kansas 3-0 to advance to the Little League World Series. They were on a pretty good run last year. They outscored their opponents 19-1 in their 3 wins.
Braden Anderson threw a lot of pitchers in the first inning, but got a big strikeout to end the inning. Trying to start off in a better spot here in the second. Able to do so on 4 pitches, records his 3rd strikeout of the game.
I think you're going to see a different guy out on the mound in Anderson.
Agreed.
Compared to how this game started. He's really settled down at the end of that first inning, and right now you can tell he's feeling it out there.
Here's the kid with a great demeanor, Carter Willems, to the plate. Batting in the 9th position, strike 1. The conventional position for pitchers in the National League, the 9th spot. Unless, of course, you're with the Cubs and Cardinals. Occasionally they'll move that pitcher up to the 8th position. Willems behind, 0-2. Braden Anderson to the plate. Back-to-back strikeouts, and for Anderson now 3 strikeouts in succession. 4 for the game.
And you can see him, he's just settled in now, got that fastball going, and that's one of the keys for this team. You know, Coach Etherton said in the paper the other day that they have 2 or 3 12-year-olds on this team on the mound that are as good as anyone in the country, and right now after Anderson has settled down, he's starting to show that.
Megasha Hennis, the batter, is a great story from Ethiopia. Was adopted and really is one of the more gifted players on this team. The coaches feel he's a 5-tool athlete. Almost feel that's a little too early in somebody's career to diagnose, but
it's a lot to live up to, isn't it?
It reminds you of the movie Moneyball.
Yeah.
Billy Bean, a 5-tool player who's gone on to be an important cog in the Oakland Athletics. Did Hennis go far enough? He did. And striking out the side is Braden Anderson. You're right. He is much more comfortable in the second than he was the first. Mid-second, Nebraska leads Iowa 2-1. Regional round, Little League World Series back in Westfield, just north of Indianapolis. John Gregory and Jim Barber. It is Nebraska 2, Iowa 1. And we weren't kidding about Kearney, Nebraska, and its often appearance here in Indianapolis, and the fact they could just book the same hotel if they want to. 7th time in 8 years they have made it to the Midwest. They have been state champions. Bo Knapp will lead off the bottom of the second for Kearney. It'll be Knapp, Ty Renninger, and Luke Wagner. 7, 8, and 9 for manager Sean Etherington. Carter Willems, his second inning of work, throws the fastball behind the batter, 1-1. I mentioned that in a few years we're looking at a tournament with no 13-year-olds. do you think about that?
I think it's a pretty good rule. That's going to come into play in 2019. No more 13-year-olds, as you said before. You know, some of the things they're doing, always willing to change, try to make things a little bit safer. Next year they're going to be going to some different bats, and this year another rule, keep out 1 foot in the box. You can see that right foot of the hitter in the box there. So there's some rules changes there as well to kind of speed up the game. Players need to stay in there.
You imagine if that rule is effective in the major leagues. The 1-2 toward left field, base hit. Good start for Nebraska in the bottom of the second as Bo Knapp is aboard as the leadoff hitter, and Ty Renninger, the second baseman, will step to the plate.
Fastball reaches out, able to get it through the hole there, and he reaches first base to lead off the inning. And one of the keys for this Nebraska team also that their head coach Sean Etherton had to say is that they've got depth. There's any guy can get a hit at any time. They've got guys that can take it deep, and guys on the mound pretty good.
Renninger back to the pitcher. Willems to short for one. Double play. Carter Willems turned a nice double play to Mangesha Hennis, and Hennis on the throw over to first baseman Woodley, and that's a double play.
This is stuff you see in spring training. Ground ball back to the mound. He does the first job. Catch the ball, make a strike throw to second base, and let Hennis take care of the rest as he makes that strong throw. That's one of those tools of the 5 that you were talking about, that throw by Hennis over to first for the out.
And that puts us to the 9th spot, and Luke Wegner. 5'2", 90 pounds, takes a strike, and the count is 0-2. So Nebraska with 3 hits in this game, and that one wiped out by a double play that goes pitcher to short to the first baseman Rex Woodley. And like most good pitchers, Willems wastes a pitch on 2 strikes. But again, continues to work quickly. So it's a conventional 3 up and 3 down, aided by a double play. It is Nebraska 2, Iowa 1. We get to the Iowa 3rd with the 2, 3, and 4 hitters. To the top of the 3rd we go. Kearney, Nebraska leading Johnston, Iowa 2-1. ESPN Little League World Series, the Midwest Regional opening round. And for pitcher Braden Anderson, who has now recorded 3 consecutive strikeouts, he'll face Spencer Timmerman, Pierce Anderson, and Gage Mullendorf, 2, 3, and 4 hitters in the top of the 3rd. This is a different looking Braden Anderson than we saw, John, in the first inning.
No question about it. You could tell he was a little pumped up, trying to overthrow a bit, and a couple of them got away from him, but now he has settled down and started to throw strikes.
Wound up hitting a couple of batters in that first inning, and also walked a man. That was Timmerman, who walked in the first, but he's behind 2 strikes. Favorite television show, The Flash. That's the number 2 spot. Ted Ellsworth is the first base coach for Johnston, Iowa. And the manager, Troy Moss, is over at 3rd. 1-2 pitch. Good change. And now that is 5 consecutive strikeouts for Braden Anderson.
And think about Anderson too. It's fastball, breaking ball for him. His dad said he's got a good breaking ball. We talked about it in the first inning, not able to locate, but now he is got command of the strike zone.
Pierce Anderson to the plate. Anderson was hit by a pitch. Back in the first inning. Jim Barber and John Gregory, wall-to-wall baseball today, the first of 4. As we go 10-1, 4, and 7 Eastern time. And you and I get to do it again tomorrow, Tuesday as well.
Nothing better than that.
Nope. Count is even, a ball and a strike. 41 pitches now for Mr. Anderson. So besides comfort level for Braden Anderson, what do you see different from that start?
Really nothing. I mean, there's not a whole lot. I think really when it comes down to just trying to overthrow a bit. Once you start getting strikes and realize you can get these guys out just like the guys you were able to do it at the state tournament and district tournament. It's not easy to get here, so to get through the state tournament they had to go beat Cardinal 21-2 in 4 innings, and then they beat Hastings baseball. They did that in 4 innings, 16-0. So for them, it really was kind of a easy way here. But right now on the mound, and I can see why it may be easy when you have a guy like Anderson pumping strikes in there like he is right now. You can see how you can move to the next level.
As you saw, John, by the graphic, strikeout number 7 of 8 potential outs in this game. Gage Mullendor to the plate. Reached on an error, got credit for an RBI in the first for Iowa. Hale Moss, who's the catcher, bats in the 5 spot. He is in the on-deck circle. The Sandlot is his favorite movie. That's a terrific baseball flick, by the way.
It is.
Anderson doesn't work nearly as quickly as his counterpart Carter Willems does. He's got a chance, though, to strike out the side for the 2nd inning in a row. Braden Anderson is dealing right now. 7 consecutive strikeouts and 8 for the game. It remains 2-1 in favor of Kearney, Nebraska as we go. Welcome back to the Little League World Series, the regional round in Indianapolis. We're in the middle of the 3rd. Nebraska 2 runs, 3 hits, and an error. Iowa 1 run, no hits, and a couple of errors. And it's to the Nebraska top of the order we go. Reese Bober will step up. He reached on an infield single and eventually scored. And Bober is likely the fastest player on both sides of the diamond today. Sends this one toward center field. 1 out. So after a rough and tumble first inning, both teams have kind of dialed in, and that's really been reflective of the pitchers. Braden Anderson, who struck out in the 1st, is at the plate. And if you're Nebraska, you're either going to favor the St. Louis Cardinals or the Kansas City Royals as your favorite team, I would think. You want to keep it in the region.
Oh, yeah. And who's ever playing better at the time may be a better choice, right?
Yeah. Royals have played pretty well in that Central Division, hanging in with the Cleveland Indians. Anderson on the bounce towards short. Hennis to first. 2 outs. Good play by Mengesha over the first baseman Rex Woodley. 2 away for Nolan Smith.
How important is that Little League position, that shortstop position in Little League? And Hennis does a fantastic job out there at that shortstop for Iowa. And I'll tell you, having a good, strong guy there with a strong arm makes a difference in this tournament year in and year out. We see if you can man that position along with that good pitching, that's a way to get you to the championship game.
And to get to the championship game, you've got to find a way to win that first game. It's typically easier in a double elimination tournament. If you grab that first, you stay in the winner's bracket. Nolan Smith, his favorite sports team, the Packers, reached on an error in the 1st and then eventually scored. Also got credit for an RBI. He'll be followed by Brooks Paul if we get that far, and Easton Etherington. Good breaking ball, 1-2-3 inning for pitcher Carter Willems, and we're halfway home in the opening game with Nebraska leading Iowa 2-1. Johnston Little League, Midwest Regional Champions from 2016. Did it with the long ball against Kansas. Won the game 3-0 and moved on to Williamsport. Were able to win at least one game there. The Great Lakes Regional wasn't decided until the two teams that were competing actually had to go to Williamsport to finish it up due to weather in Indianapolis. Reese Bober has moved from the shortstop position now to the mound to start the fourth inning defensively for Nebraska. And he will face the manager's son, Cale Moss, to start that top of the fourth. Brayden Anderson now will move from the pitcher spot to the short position, shortstop. He threw 48 pitches, allowed a run. It was unearned. That Iowa scored in the top of the first. And Anderson also finished his debut in Indianapolis with seven consecutive strikeouts.
7 and 8 of the 9 outs.
Man. So here's an opportunity for Reese Bober to hold the fort down at 5'4", 115. He is 13 years of age. His favorite book, the favorite of many, The Hunger Games. And he will face the 5, 6, and 7 hitters in Troy Moss's lineup here in the fourth. In son Cale, then Carter Bryan, and Sam Hesselman. Well, we asked manager Troy Moss if mom had to step in occasionally between these two competitive animals, the father and son. They say, yeah, that happens. And in fact, since all the coaches and managers here have sons that are playing, a lot of times in order to give instruction, they'll rely on each other to help deal with their own son.
Yep, no question about it. Whether it's at this ballpark or any other little league around the country, when you're coaching your son, a little bit more difficult. Sometimes you're a little bit harder on him. So having other coaches in that dugout to be able to take some of that pressure off of your son is a big factor. And all these coaches say the same thing. I delegate it to the other guys and let them handle it. It's a better way to get it done, and it's easier to go home that night at the dinner table. Yeah,
the feeling, too, as you take a look at manager and son, is that the kids listen a little bit better to the other coaches. They've heard it from dad for a while as the count moves to 3-1 on Moss batting in the fifth spot. But a lot of times they'll dial in a little bit more when they hear it from someone else.
No question about it.
And like your own parenting, right?
Right. I heard it many times.
3-1 pitch. Called strike, 3-2. Jake Ballard up with that right hand, the home plate umpire. All four of these umpires and all the umpires here are volunteer umpires. And put in their time, talent, and treasure to be part of the Little League World Series. 3-2 pitch, Cale Moss going the opposite way toward right field. Knapp in position, 1 out. Bring Carter Bryan to the plate. Bryan reached on an error by the catcher in the first inning.
Well, isn't it funny, Jim, how this game has really settled down? Nice defense now. We saw a few errors early in the game. And again, got to attribute a lot of that to the nerves and overthrowing on the mound. But once you get that opportunity to get an inning or two, get a plate appearance, everything seems to slow down a bit for these kids.
Caden Wilson will be the pinch hitter for Iowa. With a man out in the fourth. What you're suggesting is the game is moving along quickly, which typically is the kiss of death, right?
Well, it may move, and the game moves along more quickly because it slows down for the kids. You know, they get comfortable out there and they get comfortable in the game situation. Everything seems to slow down. You play a little bit better, and when you're playing better out there and the game's slower to you, it looks a lot better for the people in the stands.
I bet it does. Caden Wilson, likely the fastest player on this Johnston, Iowa team. Will face Bober, who works from the stretch, and now he's behind 0-2.
Nebraska, they said earlier today, they think they have 2 or 3 12-year-olds that are as good as anyone in the country, and we're seeing probably 2 of their best pitches to start this regional tournament off right now as we get another strikeout.
3 pitches to Caden Wilson. He's out on strikes. Bober's first strikeout in relief. 2 outs in the top of the 4th for Sam Hesselman. And if you're keeping numbers at home, that's 9 in a row retired by Nebraska pitchers. Caden Halsrud will get a chance to bat for Sam Hesselman, as everybody gets a chance to play in these games. Halsrud in the 7th spot takes the pitch outside a ball. With the glasses and waving the bat behind home plate, Iowa had a chance in the first inning to get up big. Failed to score with the bases loaded. This one toward right center field. Headed to the wall. Halsrud around first. In the second, he'll have a stand-up double. Placed it beautifully between Swarm and Knapp in center and right. And Iowa's first base runner. And in fact, Iowa's first hit of the game here in the 4th.
And the newest kid to the community, Caden, there on second base. Newest to the area, and boy, he drills this out to right center field and takes a wide turn down to first base bag, but easily gets into second base. Pinch hit double.
So the pinch hit brigade will continue for manager Troy Moss as Carter Sharp steps to the plate. He's a left-handed hitter. Scoring opportunity as Iowa tries to even this game here with 2 outs in the 4th. Carter Willems is the scheduled batter in the 9th spot. He would bat next. Well, unlike the majors, you don't see a lot of shifting that goes on here. But there will be strategy as the game goes along, and managers start to get dialed in on the opposition.
Right, not a lot of scouting before the games here, but you'll start to see some shifts and things later throughout this tournament. As you mentioned before, they get more familiar with what's going on. So there's plenty of coaches sitting in the stands right now from other states watching this game just to try to get an indication of how they can compare to these teams.
Absolutely. 4 of the 6 teams in this region will play today. 2 out buys to tomorrow. Tempted with Sharp, but he's ahead 3-1. With a glance down to his manager, Troy Moss at first for the signal. Halsrud represents the tying run at second. And now runners at first and second. Time being called as Iowa will make a substitution. But a scoring opportunity right now, Owen Ellsworth. Is going to be the pinch hitter and batter. We may also have a pinch runner. And the pinch running rule is different than in years past. You can do this twice during the course of a game, as Rex Woodley will become the pinch runner, but that's it. And the idea is to try to speed up the game and allow less substitutions. 1 a game in the past, or 1 per inning in the past, now just 2 a game here in the present. Ellsworth with a chance here with runners at first and second. 2 outs in the top of the 4th in the Midwest region. 1-0. All this started with 2 outs when Halsrud placed one between center and right for a double. And then Carter Sharp walked. Reese Bober in relief of Braden Anderson. 1-1. Grant Park, which has 26 baseball diamonds. Home facility on a temporary basis, although I'm sure it would like to be a permanent host for this World Series. Going the opposite way down the right field line. And the folks from Iowa out of their seats, but long foul by Ellsworth. A ball and 2 strikes. Grand Park hasn't been around a long time. Opened in 2014. Also has 31 soccer multi-purpose fields. This place is so big, John. I came in on 191st Street to scout it on Wednesday. I was still a half a mile away from the stadium where we were going to work.
Yeah, I pulled into the facility. It still took me 15 minutes to find the right ballpark.
That one bounces in as Ellsworth now has a 2-2 count with 2 outs and 2 on.
They've got an indoor facility here for soccer that is 5 fields under roof, including a championship field and seating for about 5,000 fans.
I think they could put a hotel up here and still have space.
My understanding is they are putting a hotel.
Base hit center field. Runner around third will score, and the game is tied. Halswood scores on a pinch hit by Ellsworth, and we're tied at 2.
Now how about this? How important are substitutions coming off the bench? All these kids are all-stars, and Ellsworth, Hellsrud comes off the bench. Both guys get hits and big factors in tying this ball game up.
Yeah, in fact, 3 consecutive pinch hitters have all reached base in this inning. Mengesha Hennis back to the plate, hit by a pitch and scored in the first, struck out in the second. Iowa's put together a run and 2 hits here in the 4th inning to tie the game.
We said Nebraska has depth up and down this lineup. How about Iowa, a team that won this championship last year for the Midwest? They're loaded in that dugout as well. 2 guys off the bench as substitutes come in, and they're the reason why this game's tied up.
Yep. Rex Woodley is the pinch runner right now at second base with 2 outs. Well, how smart is the skipper Troy Moss?
Yes, well played.
With all his
well played
pinch hitters coming through. So Mango Hennis awaits the 1-0 pitch with the lead run at second. Good competitive first game in this tournament. Spencer Timmerman is the scheduled hitter, would bat next. From the stretch, Bober. And the count now, ball 2 strikes on Hennis. Comes the 6th hitter in this inning for Iowa.
Looked like Bober that time really kind of took something off. To me, it almost looked like a knuckleball or a knuckle curveball when he released it. I'll have to take a look and see if we see that again.
Let's see what he throws on 1 and 2. Well, you don't often see that type of pitch, do you? Talking about the one you were referring to.
Yeah, you know, normally you don't see that, but just a little bit of a different hand position. He went right back to the fastball, and I would continue to throw that. You don't want to take something off and let Hennis turn on this ball.
Waves at a high fastball, inning over. Iowa leaves 2, but due to pinch hitting, got a run and 2 hits to tie the game. Owen Ellsworth came through with the big RBI hit to score Hellsrud. And so it's 2-2, Iowa, Nebraska, bottom 4. Welcome back. Jim Barber, John Gregory, back to business here in the bottom of the 4th, and the game it out is tied at 2-2 between Iowa and Nebraska.
Number 7, Curtis Bryant, hit when he entered in center field. Number 6, Carter Williams, hit when he entered as the pitcher.
And we'll update you on all the substitutions as we continue. This one takes a high hop on Hennis at short, goes into center field, base hit. Brooks Paul hit it hard. At least I think that's how it'll be scored. He becomes the lead runner for Nebraska in the bottom of the 4th.
Be surprised if it's scored any other way. That ball was hit hard, and Hennis was there, but that thing took a high hop on him, and fortunately for him, it didn't catch him in the head area, so the ball was hit out to center field, more down at first base, and I'm sure that's a hit.
Easton Etherington is the scheduled hitter, and we say scheduled because teams are required to play everybody. In fact, Etherington will bat, but there will be a pinch runner. Luke Wegner becomes the pinch runner. Let's take a look at the rule. Twice a game, but not more than one time an inning. A team can use a player not in the batting order as a special pinch runner for any offensive player. That player may only be removed for a special pinch hitter. So Wegner becomes the pinch runner right now with nobody out in the bottom of the fourth and represents the go-ahead run. Scout Simmons, who batted in the first, struck out to end the Nebraska first inning. This game a little bit more than an hour in length. North South Dakota representative facing Kansas in our second game at 1 Eastern, noon Central. Eastern Etherington, who came through with a clutch RBI hit in the first at the plate. Favors the TV show Hawaii 5-0, the current one we should say, and he's able to coax a walk. So right now for Nebraska, runners at first and second and nobody out. So for Carter Willems, he's in a bit of a jam here.
15 hitting for 12. 15 hitting for 12. Thank you.
Jared Moore will bat right now for Scout Simmons.
We talked with the coaches beforehand, and they said Moore is one of the strongest hitters and another guy off the bench that they like to have in a situation like this. So when you're looking for substitutes to come in and for the mandatory play rule, it's not it's mandatory they plays, but this is another kid that could, start on this team or any other team out here, but you can only put 9 out on the field. So a guy that's very dangerous at the plate.
And a team that has 13 or 14 players. Each player must bat once with 12 or fewer. Each player must play 6 consecutive outs and bat once. We're throwing a lot of rules at you folks, so make sure you're keeping tabs of this. Will be a short quiz at the end of this broadcast.
I noticed too when I was looking at these lineups or the rosters for the teams here in the Midwest region and the Great Lakes region, a lot more teams with 14 players this year compared to the past.
What's the reason for that, do you think?
I don't know if it has anything to do with the rule changes or anything like that, but just something that I noticed putting the rosters together.
Jarrett Moore at the plate, showing bunt, pitch low, and a fake throw by Moss, the catcher. 2-1 count, runners at first and second, and nobody out for Nebraska. Bo Knapp would bat next. In front to Moss, throw to first base, runners moving along. Second and third with just 1 out. So Moore does his work. And an opportunity.
And the big guy turns, squares there, and gets the bunt out. And boy, nice job by Moss realizing that ball is in fair territory. Reaches down, bare hand, makes a nice throw to first base to get the out. But as you said, Moore does his job, moves the runners over to second and third in scoring position.
See if the infield plays in as we are moving along to the latter innings of this game. As Drew Iverson will step to the plate. Sean Etherington goes back to his third base coaching spot. Manager of Kearney, Nebraska. And so for the left-handed hitter Iverson, a big spot here. Everybody in at every position right now as he takes that one for a ball. So the job of the infield right now of Anderson and Hennis and Mullendor or Woodley is to try to cut down the lead runner. Luke Wegner, who came in as a special pinch runner, is that lead run at third base. You can see Etherington, number 14, in your picture running at second. Count 2 balls and a strike. So we have a pivotal part of this game right now, Mr. Gregory.
Pivotal point 2, past 50 pitches for Willems, and their head coach told us that he thought that he would like for him to go 50 today and no more. So for Willems. They know they got to get this victory today, and he's the guy on the mound. Looks like he's going to try to take them the distance.
Right now the count is 3-1. This is pitch number 53 by Willems. Able to cut the corner, 3-2. So let's see what Carter Willems comes up with on 3-2. Facing Drew Iverson in a spot. Bases loaded. So Ryan Knipping, known more for his glove than anything else, will come in as a pinch hitter for Ty Renninger with the bases loaded and 1 out. In the meantime, Willems will head out to right field, and we'll have a pitching change, as we'll bring on the kid with the 5 tools, Mangesha Hennis. And what a spot he's in with the bases loaded.
Yeah, that's a tough ask right there of a guy coming in from shortstop, but as he throws his first few warm-up pitches, you can see why they're bringing him in. That lively arm that we saw from the shortstop area, now he's bringing it to the hill, and he's got a little giddy up on that fastball.
And it's from Ethiopia at 5'3", 105, favors the Pittsburgh Pirates as his favorite team.
Changes for Iowa. After throwing 55 pitches with a threshold count of 50, number 6, Carter Willems, is now playing right fielder. Right field. Taking over on
Carter Willems threw 55 pitches, and of course, Little League Baseball is on a pitch count constantly. And if you throw between 50 and 65 pitches, 51 actually, got to rest for 3 days before you can throw again. Hennis, the relief pitcher, on his first pitch, inside a ball.
But for Willems, he can come back in 2 days rest because he started that hitter prior to that 50th pitch. So
yeah, good point.
Because of that, he'll be able to come back with 2 days rest.
And this will work from the stretch, and he is behind 2-0. And as the old phrase goes, nowhere to put him. Bases are loaded. Hennis to the catcher Moss on the fastball, 2-1. Well, as an infield, you got to be aware of that runner at third, but you could also turn a double play on a sharply hit ball. Knipping takes it inside, gets away from the catcher runner trying to score, and he is saved. Wagner beat it, and Nebraska goes ahead 3-2. And in the meantime, runners advance.
Ball gets behind, they quickly get it there. Hennis just overran home plate a little bit. If you can wait, get to the plate, wait on the ball. Don't go after the ball. Let the ball come to you and just drop your glove on home plate. Maybe you have an opportunity, or just out in front of home plate, maybe you have that opportunity. But boy, that's a bang bang play. Very difficult to do.
Ryan Knipping now with a count of 3 balls and 2 strikes. The kid considered to be the greatest leader on this team, Hennis, with a 3-2 pitch. Lost him, ball 4, and the bases again are loaded. Well, not a lot of harm in that, because it does set up a double play ball or force at home plate.
No question about it. Having a little bit easier on the defense to be able to just get it out somewhere and really try to stay away from a big inning if possible.
Since Luke Wagner came on as a pinch runner, he will not bat in his 9th spot, at least in this inning, and Perry Swarm will as a pinch hitter. You brought this point up at the top of the 4th, John. You have to be impressed with how managers feel very comfortable about using the substitutes and how effective they've been so far in this game.
Now up and down both of these lineups is depth. I mean, there's depth in the dugout. They're all stars. They're the best of the best from their leagues around the country, and it shows here.
Sounds like that line from the movie Men in Black. Best of the best of the best. Harry Swarm, good, strong athlete. You don't want to mess with him when it comes to pull-ups and push-ups. So say his manager, Etherington.
Push-ups or pull-ups.
Yeah. May not be very big, but don't let him mislead you. Ball and 2 strikes with the bases loaded. Nebraska once again ahead by a run. You know, I like the way Moss holds that ball behind home plate.
Well, maybe you like it. I don't know if the home plate umpire likes it.
Probably not, but you know.
As he gets a little bit older, he's going to realize he's not going to get a whole lot of pitches if he continues to do that.
So in other words, that's not an umpire's best friend to allow him a rather lengthy view of the pitch.
Yeah.
But it is indicative of the competitiveness of this kid.
Yeah.
Which I like. 2 balls, 2 strikes, bases loaded, bottom of the 4th. And a big strikeout there by Mengesha Hennis. 2 outs.
You're right. That was a huge strikeout to get that second out. Now with the bases loaded, they have a force anywhere and can get out of this inning. If Hennis can buckle down here and save this game, keep it a 1-run ball game, that would be huge for Iowa.
And back to the top of the order for Sean Etherington's lineup and Reese Bober. Strike 1.
He starts Bober out with that breaking ball too. That's the first time really I've seen him throw that, and that may be a good pitch to start this kid off with.
Bober has singled and scored and flown out to center field. Back to Hennis, goes to home plate. The proper play. You scored pitcher to catcher, inning over. Could have been worse for Iowa. Nebraska does take the lead. After 4, Nebraska 3, Iowa 2. We're back. Reese Bober set to go to work in inning 5 with his team now ahead 3-2. Bober in relief of Braden Anderson, who was able in this game to strike out 7 in a row. He'll face Iowa's best hitters in the inning. 2, 3, and 4 scheduled to bat Spencer Timberman, Pierce Anderson, and Gage Mollendorf. Iowa down to its final 6 outs. But as we know in Little League Baseball, a whole lot can happen late in the game.
No question about that. So, the beginning of the game, there's a lot of pressure on these kids to start out. Then the middle of the game, they start to settle down. Then you get a 1-run ball game in the 5th and 6th, and that pressure starts to rise again, and that's where we see, you know, who can handle it late in the game.
And it's all relative when you get to the subject of pressure, because these are, after all, kids, and it's a game they love playing. But pressure, I think, is probably the appropriate word. Inside pitch to Timmerman. Starts it off with a ball. Timmerman walked in the 1st, struck out in the 3rd. Spencer's the right fielder. Trying to become the tying run on base here in the top of the 5th. Count even, a ball and a strike. Iowa would tie this game in the 4th with a hit, a walk, and a hit, all after 2 out.
Come on, Spencer, base it. You got it.
I love hearing the chatter. And you can hear that between pitches. Come on, Spencer.
Yep.
They said you got it.
That's right. Supporting the dugout. Want your teammates behind you.
Pierce Anderson would be next. Bober takes his time on the mound. Coming back our way. This is probably the most often used baseball diamond here at Grant Park. We played almost 200 games on this facility. Natural grass. And they have moved some parts into this field to make it playable. You and I took a walk beyond the infield today, and you noticed something I think that was interesting.
They put some new grass in there, brought the infield in. They've got a temporary fence out there in the outfield. Well done.
Spencer Timmerman out on strikes, 1 out in the 5th.
That fence out in the outfield has been placed out there to shorten it up a bit. And boy, they've done a great job in this ballpark getting it ready to play. And as you mentioned before, hosting it this year and looking to host it from years to come. As you can see right behind the dirt there, that's all new grass. And behind the mound, they have some turf there as they move the mound in a little bit too. So a lot of hard work has gone into this facility. That's a great look right there of what all work was done to be able to host this thing. And why not? With all these ballparks and the facilities around here, it could only get bigger and better.
Yep. Here's Anderson. Was hit by a pitch in the first, struck out in the third, takes a called strike. Pierce has good power to all lengths of the field. Trying to get aboard here and knock one out and tie the score again. Behind now, 2 strikes. North and South Dakota rep versus Kansas in our second game at 1 o'clock. In the Midwest, 12 o'clock Central. Later this evening, Ohio, or check that, Indiana and Kentucky will get together. In the Great Lakes. Change of pace, up for a ball, 1 and 2.
Well, you can see that ball just coming out of the hands of Bober on the mound. It's a little bit different. If you're a hitter, you can really recognize it because it's a big change from the way he delivers his fastball.
Trying to record the second out, can't get it on the corner. 2-2. Nebraska's out hit Iowa in this game, 4-2. In fact, Iowa got its first hit as late as the 4th inning of this game. From the stretch, Reese Bober, and we'll do again the 2-2 pitch. That's some exciting games already in the Little League World Series opening rounds in the Southwest Regional last night. Texas East and Texas West battled extra innings. East won it after trailing 7-0 in that game. Again, the change, and it fools Anderson, and there are 2 outs in the 5th.
Well, that change that he's throwing up there is a knuckleball, and that's something you don't see a lot from Little Leaguers. Watch this ball come out of his hands. You can see that knuckleball. Not a lot of movement on it, but you know what it does? It's a change of pace, and they're going to make a change on the mound right now as Bober's done for the day, and he does his job out there.
Looks like Tim Wakefield of the Boston Red Sox with that pitch from years past.
Yeah, often don't see kids because they don't throw it that hard, so a lot of times you don't get the dance on that breaking ball as you do as a guy that can throw it a little bit harder. But the effect of just having the off-speed pitch, if you can throw it for a strike, you can get people out.
So manager Etherington now will call on Luke Wagner to try to record the final out of the 5th inning. Boy, that was a gorgeous pitch on 2 strikes, wasn't that?
It was, and it really fooled the hitter that time, and he's able to get that important out. Now he'll move back into the field and play some strong defense.
39 pitches, threshold count of 35. Number 3, Reese Bober, is now playing center field.
Bober moves to center field after being recorded for 35 pitches. Technically through 39, but we go back to the point you made that it'll be recorded as 35.
And for him now, he moves to center field. Started the game at the shortstop position, moves to the mound, and now out in center field. And that's the versatility that he brings to this team. And why not put him out in center field with the good speed he has? He can cover a lot of ground out there.
Trying to prevent any kind of extra base hit here that might matter late in the game. Gage Mullendore to the plate. Batting in the 4th spot today is grounded out. Credited with an RBI in the 1st and also struck out in the 3rd. Nebraska pitchers have recorded 12 of a potential 14 outs as strikeouts. 6-inning game. We're getting late. Towards short. No problem for Brayton Anderson. 1-2-3 in the 5th. Bottom of the 5th, Nebraska with a 3-2 lead. Nebraska 3, Iowa 2, last of the fifth in this 6-inning game. Kearney, Nebraska is a population of just shy of 31,000, a couple hours west of Lincoln, Nebraska, named after Fort Kearney, a U.S. Army outpost along the Oregon Trail. Actually, the spelling of the name was a misprint, and it stuck.
Yeah. Had to be a baseball player, right? Superstitious. They must have spelled it that way, had a good game, and decided to keep it.
That's how it works. And his second inning of relief throwing. And Braden Anderson gets a hold of that one late, but swings at it mightily. And the count is a ball and a strike. Braden Anderson, Nolan Smith, Brooks Paul. Scheduled batters for manager Etherington in the bottom of the fifth, with Nebraska holding a 3-2 lead.
You talk about getting fooled at the plate that time. Anderson, he knew it. He looked down at the third base coach down there and had a little smile on his face. That breaking ball really fooled him.
And Ennis comes back with back-to-back strikes for the first out of the fifth inning.
Boy, how about that fastball right there? He throws the fastball to get him on first strike. Then he throws this breaking ball right here and really fools him. And then he comes back with the fastball inside, busts him inside on the hands, not able to get the bat on the ball there, and a big strikeout. Impressive 3 pitches for Hennis.
Facing Nolan Smith, who reached on an error, John, in the first. Got credit for an RBI, bringing home Reese Bober, and then struck out in the third. The winner of this game will come back tomorrow to face Missouri, and the loser of this game will next play on Tuesday. And the reason Little League Baseball does that is they don't want to put the loser of the first game in a position where if they were to play the next day, they'd be eliminated in a matter of hours. And I think it's a good concept.
Yeah, so much more than just the games here, the camaraderie with the other kids and just being out here and having an opportunity. There's so much more to experience, and that's why all these kids and parents love it here.
That went over the head of Nolan Smith. That might have been a message pitch in the major leagues, but here the count runs full 3-2.
Right now, and this with the pitch count days, every pitch is important. You don't want to give away one if you don't have to.
And it's on 3-2. Towards center field, base hit. Nolan Smith on for the second time today, with one out in the bottom of the fifth, representing rather important insurance run.
Shows you the strength of Nolan Smith. He fisted this ball, got really inside on him. He's still able to fight it off and get it to center field and find his way on the bag for the second time. And the pitch count again, we're going to get a change on the mound as Hennis is going to be changed.
H. Mullendor will come on to pitch for Iowa. We'll take a break with Nebraska leading Iowa 3-2, bottom of the fifth. Little League Grow the Game Grant Initiative has distributed over $2 million at the local level. Grant funding provides local Little Leagues resources for general improvement and to expand or establish softball, challenger division, and urban initiative programs. For more information, visit littleleague.org/grow the game. Jim Barber with John Gregory. Competitive first game, 3-2 in favor of Nebraska over Iowa in the Battle of the State Champions in the Midwest region. Gage Mullendor facing Brooks Paul with one out here in the fifth. Ball is grounded to third, singled to start the fourth, and scored. Big kid on the mound, too, facing a big kid at home plate.
Boy, that's a good pop on that fastball from Mullendor out there. You could see Tardy that time at the plate. That's what you want, a guy coming in, pumping strikes. You see the catcher setting up outside. Moss again holding it there, just missing outside.
Big fan of Mike Moustakas. 2-2 pitch. Now 3-2. Nolan Smith is the base runner at first. He reached down a one-out hit here in the 5th. Mollendor gets a call, 3rd strike. 2 outs here in the 5th. Scout Simmons is the, or rather Easton Etherington, pardon me, is the scheduled hitter.
Mollendor has a little bit of a hesitation before he delivers that fastball. What I love about him, he's got great extension. That little hesitation allows his body to get out there. Then he follows it up and just whips that fastball. Watch this extension he gets.
Wears glasses. Does he remind you of anybody in the major leagues offhand?
Not in particular. Anybody you thinking?
Well, a long time ago pitcher, so I want to, you know.
There's another. Looked like to me a knuckleball. Another way to throw an off-speed pitch. You don't have to throw a breaking ball and maybe save the arm a little bit. So you throw the knuckleball. Really, it's just a change of pace. Some kids are able to throw a change-up. Others are not. So a knuckleball may be another way to just try to keep hitters off balance.
Tough pitch to hit, too. His favorite team is the Cardinals as he works the count to 3-1, and both the Cardinals and Pirates will be making an appearance in Williamsport.
That's right.
When the Little League World Series reaches the big rounds. What a thrill that'll be for these kids.
Yeah.
And with 2 outs, Etherington draws a walk. Nolan Smith down to second base. Jarrett Moore was the pinch hitter back in the 4th, who had a very effective bunt. But Scout Simmons is the scheduled batter, and he will hit here. Scout struck out to end the 1st inning. Not a chance to expand the lead, though, for Nebraska here in the last of the 5th. That one gets away, and the throw down to 3rd, not in time. So runners now at 2nd and 3rd, both in scoring position.
And a little bit easier now for a guy at the plate that's known for picking up a few RBIs. That wild pitch allowed 2 runners now to get in scoring position, and a good visit to the mound right now from Troy Moss, and try to calm his guys down a little bit. Again, I think this is that conversation that we discussed in the 1st inning. Try to overthrow late in a ball game. It gets a little bit more tense. This guy's on the mound because he's a guy that can get guys out late in the game. So that's all his coach is doing, is making a trip, letting them know that he can get it done. Just don't overthrow.
And if you're Iowa, you have a base open. So if you fall behind here and wind up walking Scout Simmons, that's okay too. Manager Etherington behind home plate to talk with umpire Ballard about another change. And if you're not privy to Little League Baseball and its rules, everyone plays, everyone bats, gets a chance to defend. And late in the game, as strategies become even more important, everybody is penciled in if needed. So Perry Swarm will become the pinch runner right now. He's over at 3rd base, representing what would be the 4th run in this game and a big one for Nebraska.
Now how important is Cal Moss behind home plate? Any ball in the dirt here, he has got to try to get his body in front of it and prevent it from getting behind there. They brought Simmons into 3rd base. He's got some speed.
Down the first base line, count 2-1. You know, if we get a chance to talk to pitcher Mollendor before our duties are done Wednesday afternoon, we have to find out who he models himself after in the majors, because that hesitation is reminiscent of at least a couple of pitchers.
Yeah.
Goes with a high stretch on the 2-1 pitch, and now the count is even. This is a strike away. from getting out of the inning.
And that's his best pitch right there, that fastball. I think you just have to go after him here. Don't think about anything off speed. Just challenge him and see if he can beat you.
Should be out of the inning. He'll cover first, won't need to. Inning over. Good play by Rex Woodley. Nebraska leads 2. It's the middle of the lineup for Iowa with its last chance in the 6th. In our opening act, Nebraska trailed 1-0 bottom of the first, scored twice. First on the air by the second baseman off the bat of Gage Mollendor. Rather Nolan Smith, and then Eastern Etherington came through with the RBI that made it 2-1. Iowa got the run back with 2 outs and an RBI hit by Owen Ellsworth. But in the bottom of the inning, wild pitch plated the 3rd run of the game for Nebraska. That's the difference in the game right now. 3-2 as we head to the 6th inning. And for Iowa, Cale Moss will lead off, to be followed by Carter Bryan and Sam Hesselman. Last chance for Johnston, Iowa, trailing 3-2. This is, however, not an elimination game. It's just the very first game. John, we're in an open-aired area here, directly behind home plate, and we are experiencing a lot of wind, cool temperatures. Feels like a mid-October football game that we're attending today.
Yeah. Wind blowing out. Really feels like to center field, and there's a flagpole out in right center field that indicates same thing, blowing out to right center field.
I bet Cale Moss is well aware of that as he takes the pitch inside 2-1.
And wouldn't he like to deliver one now? He's a big, strong kid at the plate, and he can turn it around.
Top of the 6th, last inning for Iowa if it fails to score. 3-1. An important 3-1 pitch from Wegner. Strike called. So Ty Wegner comes back with a fastball strike. Pushing the limit here with the leadoff hitter in the top of the 6th. Moss awaits the 3-2. And he now becomes the tying run at first. Catch all the excitement in the Little League World Series, including scores, stats, highlights, and more. Visit LLBWS.org or follow along on social media with hashtag LLWS. 140 Little League baseball and softball games in July and August on ESPN. Manager Moss behind home plate to make another change. Right now, Owen Ellsworth becomes the pinch runner at first base for Cale Moss. So Owen Ellsworth representing the tying run at first base. And at the plate, Carter Bryan, who reached on an error in the first. So a little of high drama here in this game, the very first game of our tournament here in the top of the 6th.
Carter Bryan got a breaking ball to start off that time, swung at it and really fouled it off.
To shallow right field, 1 out, hauled in by Bo Knapp.
I was going to say somehow, some way, he's got to find a way to get Ellsworth over to second base, possibly. Get him into scoring position as he hits a lazy fly ball out to right field for the first out.
Sam Hesselman comes to the plate after instructions from manager Moss at third base. Sam Hesselman batted in the first and struck out. Ty Wegner to the plate. Strike 1. Nebraska 2 outs away from an opening act victory.
That's 2 hitters in a row now that Wegner out on the mound has started them off with breaking balls.
The potential tying run at first. And Hesselman behind 2 strikes. Nebraska out hitting Iowa in this game 5-2 and leading 3-2.
You can see Nolan Smith, the catcher, looking down at his wrist. He's first looking into the dugout to get the signal from the coach, and on his wristband telling what pitch number he's going to drop there with his fingers.
Sam Hesselman stays alive.
Take a look at this as he looks in toward third base dugout, gets the sign, and then he'll look down at his wrist and drop the sign.
That one in the dirt. And the tying run, and Owen Ellsworth now at second. Should be a wild pitch.
Nolan Smith, nice job not letting that get by him. Again, looked like a breaking ball that time in the dirt. And that's the problem with throwing a breaking ball. If you don't throw it for a strike and it's in the dirt, good chance runners can advance.
Counted 1-2, John, on Sam Hesselman, taken inside. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Rex Woodley is the scheduled hitter for Iowa next. Top of the 6th, last inning. Last scheduled inning anyway. Sean Etherington is the manager of Kearney Little League. His coaches are John Paul and Brent Anderson. And after a conversation with Luke Wegner, ready to go again. Luke's pitch. 2 outs.
I think Hesselman was fooled that time. He may have been thinking fastball, and he got a breaking ball by Wegner. So he started him with the breaking ball, and he finished him off with a breaking ball. That was fortunate he got away with it. It was up in the strike zone.
So now we have 2 outs, tying run at second and a 6th. This one could end the game. Toward base, throw to first, safe. Scout Simmons came up with it, but Rex Woodley beat it out.
Really couldn't have played it any better, as we're going to get a timeout on the field here. But Simmons had to go a long way to get this, and if you can cut the shortstop off that time, make the play, he did. And again, another, I think, really good call by the first base umpire, Brian Hollowell, as he, again, they're going to take a look at it possibly here in a review, but I think he got this call right again. A bang bang play. 2 times we've seen it already for him down at the first base bag, and I think he got them both correct.
Yeah, we're about to find out how good that call was, because the game hedges on this call right now.
Certainly
if it's
does.
reversed, it's over. So the challenge now being registered, and you can judge for yourself whether the hitter was able to beat it out. Ooh.
No, I changed my mind.
Yeah.
Yes. I thought he had it right from the view up here, but Simmons with a strong throw over the first base, I think he got him.
And again, if that is reversed, this game is over and Nebraska wins.
One more time as Simmons does a perfect job, cuts it off. Ball in the glove, foot on the ground. Now the difference in that play may be, look where he touches the bag with his foot. So many times as you get older, they'll teach you running down that first base line, you want to touch the front part of that bag. His foot touches the very top, maybe 3/4 of the way on top of that bag. He may make it a little bit closer if he steps on the front, and he'll learn that as he gets a bit older.
Here's umpire Ballard.
Guy first is out.
And the game is over. So the challenge works in Kearney, Nebraska. Moving on. Well, what a way to end our first game.
Wow.
Huh?
A little dramatic there. I love the way he gave it a little pause, got to the home plate, and punched him out. But a good call, a good reverse of a call, and a bang-bang play at the first base bag.
So Iowa leaves a man in the 6th, and that's it. Nebraska moves on to competition against Missouri tomorrow in the winners bracket. Iowa will get the day off and come back on Tuesday to try to stay alive. John, pretty good start to our competition with the Dakotas and Kansas coming up.
Yeah, 3-2 ball game, doesn't get any better than that. A little bit shaky at first, couple hit by pitch, few walks, but boy, they settled down and played great baseball, and you love to see a great start like that. Looking forward to the rest of these ball games.
All right, you're excused for the next hour, so we'll see you back at 1 Eastern and 12 Central. For John Gregory, Jim Barber, and our fine ESPN3 crew. Had a good start to the tournament with Nebraska winning at 3-2. Come on back at 1 Eastern when the Dakotas take on Kansas in Game 2 of the Midwest Regional from Westfield, Indiana.